I met Dr. Bawumia one-on-one for 45 minutes. Let me get to Chairman Wontumi. Punishment is an important part of these things. It should not lead to a situation where people just return the money and go scot-free. A nation that deals foul thieves and cassava thieves should not let big people go free when they commit crimes. So she should be in prison. I think the Americans will not extradite somebody whose health will be jeopardized by the extradition process.
All right, so fellow Ghanaians, today happens to be the 13th day of June 2026. June bosom ne dey toso edumi ensa. Ewa fimpinu eni edunu ensimu. And we have a lot to discuss about. Aha, Smart Africa Media, kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel, like na fesan share mafofra wonum wo chichi ene benche. Ebusu nkomo ho. Na meje disa matena si ade na se nkomo no ho no se. Me no pensam no unu de ekọ. Dr. Kennedy Atta. Wayan pipi nipa na ensensen ba ku menu bi ntema wo correct kakra into base wo UK or the same US si ameno kase na Dr. Kennedy Atta be kasa wo na nkomo no wedi no wedi nkomo miensa ntime de bo ba ku bekum no ma miensa mo osi ono Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia hia and it's a very positive news. Oni Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia hia a 45 minutes conversation between ono and Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia and what trend they 1 year with tunfo ne ade concerning abronyamo ne ade ebiem owie no obedi Sedimam Tamakloe maslot maame no a ya jelen 10 years no wabawu maame na bana wabae na ye kyerese ebi kyerese maame no ne ho mfa no wote hwil mi ne ade so hwe wote hwil mu ntide one jin ni say US aban ebe extradite obi a wote hwil mu so womra one jin ni enti maame no so wote hwil mu kura na se wafom oman no a oman no wo health facilities even in sa omu kura no omu nurses ho a ombetimi ahwe no ati ase omu nurses ho ombetimi ahwe maame no ho atoro ntino wo mfa no nkotum kakra na anya sa ebema nkrofo bedwin so oman no obi asode na wo ye de ope obi asode na wo ye de ope na ne nkomode ne mu no ena wo trese o wie no wodi nkomo fa wontumi ho wontumi issue no they said the obeka tell say issue ne issue trabia oboa and this for they know what they are doing and they wontumi issue no maslog maame Sedimam Tamakloe aba no sa maame ne dem wontumi bedem and the papa ne say wontumi issue no ni kwan say ye jai wontumi sabi although wakọ plea but plea no what try dey according to me say ye njai no kura ye ntwena so kakra wo so wonde wo ye npp ne bet wontumi no hu say ye ntwena so kakra so the next time obi wa manyoko bi mu na so wo ya ade a obi hunu na montutu yi but wonim de bara na tie Sedimam Tamakloe na de no ya ba wontumi de no so wakibi pa ya be bo wontumi Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia nkomo ni na ade abo matero.
She should be in jail. The conviction is clear and you've read a lot of the charges. I think only lawyers would argue about whether when you spend a couple of years relaxing abroad, you have served some of your sentence. It is common sense on the streets that if you haven't been in prison, you haven't served any of your sentence. So she should be in prison. I think the Americans will not extradite somebody whose health will be jeopardized by the extradition process.
Okay.
So it presupposes that if the Americans sent her down, they thought that she was in good enough health to travel. Of course, the Ghana Prison Service have healthcare facilities. There are prisoners who spend time in hospital when they are not well. So I take it for granted that they will take good care of her health. And I think that she should be allowed to go through the appellate process and all her rights should be respected. But I go back to my basic point. There is an increasing perception that we have tiers of justice, and that when your government is in power, the law is far more lenient to you than when your government is out of power. And that even if your government is out of power, if you are a powerful, connected person, the law seems to treat you differently. That sentiment underlying some of our dissatisfaction with our democratic process.
You said perception. You said perception, but that is perception informed by facts, evidence on the ground, right? So it may be factual rather than perception.
Well, both. I was just being diplomatic, but I say that our justice system must not only be fair, it must be seen to be fair, so that the powerful will be punished just like nobody's. I think there is too much of a perception that the powerful get unfair treatment, or they get sweetheart deals, and that was demonstrated by the Nolly prosecutions that we saw. That is part of why people are wondering whether she's in jail or not. So I think that for our democracy to be credible, the public must see that when powerful people do believe has done, stealing money, which has been proven by courts that they suffer consequences. When there are no consequences, then people start to believe that the powerful can get away with everything. And this is one case where we can demonstrate that indeed our laws work. I do not believe that, as one of the panelists stated, unfortunately, sometimes we are too quick to or eager to crucify. No, we are too slow. The law must be seen to be enforced, and this is one case where it must be enforced rigorously. If she is not well, the prison authorities must offer her health care, but yes, she should face the consequences of what she has done, so that it serves as a deterrent to people in the future. I think that there has been too much ura about ura, and there needs to be action.
What do you mean by that? Too much oral about oral?
It means ura means we are talking, and ura is the initials of Operation Recover or Loot. So all what we are doing is that we are doing ura about ura.
In respect of that argumentation, actually, about when the sentence begins, a colleague lawyer says people should rather check subsection 1 before they move to the subsection 2. So I am projecting the law to you, section 315 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act, which is Act 30. It says that warrants to be issued in respect of sentence of imprisonment. And the explanation one should get is very simple, that these warrants were issued by the judge. There was a warrant for her arrest. It is now that she has been handed over to the Ghanaian authorities that all of these things kick in. So signing of the warrants will now happen. So it is now beginning, not later. One says, where a person is sentenced to a term of imprisonment, the court which sentenced him shall issue a warrant of commitment, ordering that the sentence shall be carried out in any prison in Ghana, and the warrant shall be full authority to the police and prison officers to take, convey, and keep that person to all other persons for carrying into effect the sentence described in the warrant. Before it comes to 2, a sentence of imprisonment shall commence on and include the whole of the day on which it is pronounced. Thank you. So, what will you be surprised? And if you get surprised about what I'm going to ask you about, will that surprise suggest to you that she's being treated with levity because she's, NDC? Already we are being told about the analogy of the time she surrenders to the US authorities, all the while when the NPP was in government and the extradition began, she, didn't show up, didn't surrender. And then suddenly she surrenders, and then around just when she will come, her accomplice, so to speak, the former deputy, is granted bail pending his determination of, his appeal before she comes in. So will you be surprised if she's granted bail pending her appeal? Will it be too much if she's so sick that the president feels that if all her appellate processes fail, she should enjoy a pardon?
I actually will be surprised if she is granted bail, and it will fuel more my skepticism about the fairness of our judicial process. And secondly, if the president grants her a pardon, of course, he has a right to grant pardons, but it will still feed the public's perception that there are special deals for powerful people. I think that in this country, you are in more danger being a cassava or plantain thief than stealing millions from the state using a pen or connections. And I stand by that conviction. And if the president does that, it will only go to fuel that perception. Of course, you can do a pardon in which the person does a restitution and brings back punitive damages, just like a plea deal. If something like that happened, I'll be more understanding of it. But for now, I think that she must serve her sentence, and if she is sick, she'll be provided health care while she's
by the law. And what you just said, there are people who have also asked about that. By the law, plea deals are only open before judgment. Once there is judgment, it's out, it's not available anymore. So we cannot be talking about plea deals.
I use the term advisedly. You know, for example, before Ford pardoned Nixon, there was negotiation. And since Mr. Trump returned to office, there have been some pardons, and some of them have involved negotiation. So a pardon is just not just blanket. For example, a pardon can convert a death sentence into life. It can shorten a life sentence. It can obligate the person who has been pardoned to do restitution. So it is not a plea deal, but the pardon also involves negotiations sometimes, to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. But again, the 90 million, we are interested in that too. Again, when people are saying don't do ABC, just go and jail the people. You jail the people, you feed them again. When they are sick, you take care of them. And then what happens to the money? The 90 million. So should we be asking the state to account to us how much of that money has been recovered so far?
Yes, and I actually think that a custodial sentence is not incompatible with recovering the benefits of the loot.
That's right.
So I think that financial reparation can be part of the sentence.
Correct.
And whenever possible, it should be.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. And
I was also Dr. Kennedy Atanakasan. What's it? Sedimam Tamakloe no, Mameno, Woodtin and Common Muda Woodtie at Numa, a deep bone, quite do so one quite demua. What you will look where Daurma, woman, go to him, Yabinia doctor for the nurse for Mama and I want to promote this. As I saw a big Korea body, a big Korea bunch. That's it to me, the no go to the end, you're sitting on Tamakloe, woman in the Gaka. Nebusia, after that, no, and I watch them. Tell my Wontumi issue, or baby won't come. Nan common or would dear. Na memma what ye Dr. Muhammad Bawumia and come with ye. Now what ye tell my Wontumi so dear. Son say, I dear no. Kako dear hodo. Also Wontumi dear Montana Sudakra. Moman and Kotrim Kakrama Munda is aqua. Said the bear best service. Advice to the people out there, the Ghanaian people know. I would take things for granted. I do what by and Bapa one no boy at the open. When they were young people, they won't to me. Woman in Trimukakra. Is it me to make a Wontumi Tina baby canon on restful? I did we know on for course. Now, the brother Dr. Kennedy Atta. And come out, dear.
Laws that are enforced so people don't listen. So now let me get to Chairman Wontumi.
right.
I think that those who say the Attorney General shouldn't, in effect, engage are wrong. there can always be negotiations and a plea deal, but I think that punishment is an important part of these things. It should not lead to a situation where people just return the money and go scot-free. A nation that jails foul thieves and cassava thieves should not let big people go free when they commit crimes. So yes, the negotiation can save us prosecution cost and defense attorney cost and all that kind of thing. But still, punishment ought to be part of a plea deal. Here, a plea deal in the United States, for example, means that if this might have led to imprisonment for life, it may lead to, say, 10, 15 years of imprisonment. In other words, you might get a lesser sentence when you do a plea deal, but it does not mean that if you clearly committed a crime, you can walk away scot-free. So one should not presume anybody guilty. He's innocent until proven guilty. He should be able to engage, but I think that some kind of custodial sentence or criminal penalties must be on the table. I noticed that his lawyer is trying to withdraw from the case, and the Attorney General is trying to.
No, that's not the case in focus. That case is over. The Samra Boy matter, that one is over. They are waiting for judgment. This one is the Export Imports Bank, the loan he took for agricultural purposes. Yeah.
Okay, so I would just say that the government ought to engage, but custodial sentences and criminal punitive fines must be on the table. However, politics looms large in the background, because when you think of a situation where the government itself announced earlier that it is up to the discretion of the Attorney General to accept some of these plea deals, where people win cases in court and they thank the Asante and the president instead of thanking the judiciary, and where we randomly find nolle prosequis with lack of accountability about why they were filed and people got freed, the public has reason to be concerned about whether our legal system is tiered, one for the powerful or one for the weak. I think that we should be guided by the kind of retribution faced by cassava and foul thieves, and that big people ought not to get away just because they are big and connected people.
If the cassava and foul thieves don't want to negotiate plea deals, why should that be visited on somebody who wants to, exercise their rights in that regard?
Thompson, the right to legal representation, you work to my admiration among people in our prisons, some of who were remanded just years ago and their case have not been held. The reason their cases haven't been held is that sometimes they don't have lawyers, and if they have lawyers, these are volunteer lawyers who don't have time. So our justice system obviously depends on your ability to hire counsel. I'm just saying that we need to be careful that in the end, when one looks, if even innocently, we will not seem to be operating a system where if you are powerful and connected enough, you can loot the state and then dribble and get away with it. And the ultimate example is that when government changes, if Wontumi or any of these other people about whom we are making noises regards to Ura and others, if God forbid 2028 we find out that MPP is in power, most of their problems will go away regardless of whether they are guilty or not.
Did you say God forbid if MPP is in power? God forbid?
Yeah, God forbid on the legal front, because we know that's what is going to happen, because it happened to the NDC people.
Okay. So your statement was not that MPP should not return to power.
Well, that is a whole new show. The MPP, as it is framed now, as it is constituted now, unrepentant as it is, does not deserve to return to power. But that's a different show.
Okay.
Honorable Ajay Bafo, who made a comment on my comment on the MPP. I met Dr. Bawumia one-on-one for 45 minutes. They made the meeting public. I thought it was confidential. But I'll tell you one of the things, and when I left, I chose to keep quiet, and I'm an optimistic person, so I still hold out hope that we'll get to where we need to get to. I'll tell you a small part of the meeting. I told him that the day before meeting him, I told my mother-in-law, who is a die-hard MPP supporter, that I was going to meet Dr. Bawumia. The woman said, Doctor, yes, no one at the buy, so on at the buy there we had dear pa bonabaso. Then he added, and so yes, renting food this capra Wontumi. I repeated that to the good doctor. He said nothing, no defense. I went on to tell him about the activities of people like Abronya and others and gave him chapter and verse, giving him a chance to defend himself. He said nothing. So respectfully, don't provoke me. There are a lot of things, but I think it was a confidential meeting, so let's leave it here.
All right.
And that's the reason why I haven't gone.
Thank you, Dr. Atakan.
I was also waiting somewhere, Dr. Krediata, what did you do? What's one idea? One of Dr. Muhammad Bawumia for a 45 minutes conversation. Now, conversation no now if you say nanka be private kakra beto mo ya na public. But I don't know how doing. Or two of what nyoma ba ku menu bia 1 year. And I think with this no it's a very positive because Dr. Kennedy Atawon papa no onim kasa o onim kasa onim how to communicate with people. And imagine say Dr. Kennedy Atta aba NPP move back. Say he's going to help Dr. Muhammad Bawumia in the coming election. Listen, look at what will happen. In fact, it is going to help. But I know what Wontumi issue no didn't come out from her. Also Wontumi. I feel we more money into me. I feel we more papa into me because what you say was say what letter or plea. And a plea no plea no doesn't mean say yenja no kora wo mo tuna so kakra. One ni adwen. Entina me catch us say Chama Wontumi should unresisting home from this chairmanship position. Na unresting like on what na baby kakra. No focus on this issue. You see, I mean, me say lawyer and the appeal could be. And so what you free summer boy case in na I want to remember one commodity kakra. Papa no me who say a baby one more to me. Because a brave moon more din na say what say what you free case in dia. Papa something else. Hey, I know din because sir I did what equals to say in one. What you want for summer boy case? Wontumi so court. I feel na Wontumi be lawyer. And no na Kennedy Atta doctor say there be Adentina doctor or the same lawyer and the appeal could be actually free. That's a case. It's not a case. It's not an ordinary case as we are thinking. John Kennedy or saying Chama Wontumi want to mukakra. It was a minjin this say because be a one in yarding. One in yarding. And I want in yarding. May won't comment section because and komopia. Maybe say the armor more trip upon him. And yes, Hagalam sending komopia would defy you return to money Mahama home. I know what Jenny. I know what deal about Yura Mahama ne mate be komobi near daddy. Komobi would defy national security for whom plus this galam saying sensible. May say, for sure with him says, Sedimam Tamakloe, any demo won't me be. And when him Sedimam Tamakloe, yes, you are more quiet, Pila Manu. At the moment, on Baya Pila man 10 years in a subet, and if I show with him 10 years, Kurano, a subet. In Agrada could 15 years, or could a 1 year. 10 years in a subet. Sedimam Tamakloe go for ya appeal one. Fashion with him said 10 years no. So Jafi the Chama Wontumi should look for a better lawyer with me abuano. But Said the papa ne kasa won kotwiri mu kakra no. Efa baby no. Me nim se won be adwene. I don't know if you're going to agree with him. But I remember who comment or comment section. Hi, Smart Africa Media. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel, like and sign, share my for one more and bench. Yemidin, Eddie Oduman Kumawa and Akufi from Asante.